Hey there, and welcome. You ever stare at a line of code and just feel your brain kind of melt? Yeah, we've all been there. Today, we're going to take on one of those lines, a single 5-layer deep chain you see all the time with APIs, and we are going to turn that confusion into total confidence. Let's get into it. This. This right here is our mystery for the day. It's got dots, it's got brackets. It looks like some kind of secret password you're not supposed to know, right? Well, I promise you, by the time we're done here, reading this is going to feel as simple as reading a grocery list. And hey, if you're looking at that and feeling a little overwhelmed, you are so not alone. This kind of code, where you're digging deeper and deeper into data, is a wall that a lot of developers hit, no matter their experience level. But today, we're going to build a ramp and just cruise right over it. So here's our game plan. First, we're going to tackle that one line of code. Then, I'll give you a super simple way to think about it, the nested box analogy. We'll unbox the API response together, piece by piece. We'll even cover why it's so layered, and I'll give you a handy checklist for when things go wrong. And finally, we'll lock in your new way of thinking about this stuff. All right, first things first. We have to do a little mental reset. See, the biggest reason that line of code feels so weird isn't the code itself. It's what we think an API response is supposed to be in the first place. We often think we're just asking the API for a single answer. Like, we ask a question and it just hands us a piece of paper with the answer on it. Simple. But what we actually get is more like a whole filing cabinet, a structured, nested object that's got all sorts of information tucked away inside, all neatly organized. Okay, to really wrap our heads around this whole structured object idea, we're going to use an analogy. And trust me, this is the key that's going to make everything else just click into place. So, I want you to imagine you just got a big package delivered to your door. That package is your API response. Now, to get to the good stuff inside, you can't just rip it open. You got to open that main shipping box, right? And inside there might be another smaller box, and maybe even another one inside that. Each box, each layer is there for a reason. All right, you got the nested box analogy in your head? Good. Let's go back to our mystery line of code and start unboxing it, piece by piece. Think of us as data detectives, carefully dusting off each layer to see what's inside. We're going to start at the very beginning with the word response. This is our starting point. This response object, that's the big shipping box that landed on your doorstep. It is the main container. It holds literally everything the API decided to send back to you. Not just the answer you were looking for, but also other useful stuff like status codes and metadata about the request. Our whole journey starts right here. Okay, let's move on to the next part. We open that main response box, and inside, we find something labeled choices. So what in the world is that? Well, this tells us something really cool about how these AI models work. A lot of the time, they don't just come up with one single answer. They might generate a few possibilities. So choices is a list of those potential answers. In our analogy, it's like opening the big box to find a whole row of smaller boxes lined up inside. Next up, we see these square brackets with a 0 in them. Now, this can look a little funky if you're new to it, but what it's doing is actually super straightforward. So since choices is a list, a row of boxes, we have to tell the computer which box we want to open. And in the world of programming, we're a little weird. We almost always start counting from 0. So 0 just means, hey, grab me the very first item in that list. Most of the time, that first choice is the best one, so that's the one we're going to pick. Okay, great. We've picked our first choice from the list. We open that box, and what do we find? You guessed it, another smaller box inside. This one's labeled message. We are getting so close. The message object is where the real substance of the AI's answer lives. It's like a dedicated container holding the actual content we've been looking for. And that brings us to the very last piece of the chain, the final destination on our map, .parsed. And this is the prize. Parsed is the treasure we've been digging for. This is where you find your data perfectly clean, perfectly structured, maybe as JSON, exactly how you asked for it. It's ready to use in your app, no messy cleanup required. This is the whole reason we went through all those layers. So I can hear you thinking it. Okay, I get the boxes, but why? Why all the layers? Why not just send the final answer? And the reason, my friend, is all about power and flexibility. Let's imagine for a sec you're building a recipe app with an AI. You don't just want a big blob of text, right? No way. You need the recipe's title as a string of text. You need the ingredients as a nice, clean list. You need the cook time as a number, and you need to know if it's vegan with a simple true or false. These nested layers let the API give you all of that perfectly structured so your app can easily use it. It's structure on purpose. Okay, so you get the structure now, but let's be real, code breaks. You're going to get an error trying to do this at some point. It happens to everyone. So when it does, here's your safety net. When you hit a wall, don't panic. Just go through this list. First, print out each step. Print response. Then print response.choices. See exactly where your path breaks. Second, double check your map. Should you be using a dot for a box or brackets for a row of boxes? Third, and we have all lost an hour to this, check for typos. Seriously? And finally, see if the API just sent back an empty box at some point. Maybe the choices list was empty. That'll break the chain every time. We've unboxed the mystery, we understand the why, and we have a safety net for debugging. So now, let's lock this all in with a new, much simpler way to think about this from now on. Look, when you see a long chain like this again, don't see a monster. See a map, a set of directions. Every single dot just means go one level deeper. Open the next box. And the brackets, they just mean pick an item from this row. That's it. That's all it is. One dot, one level deeper. It's just a simple, repeatable pattern. So, you've taken something that felt confusing and turned it into a powerful tool. You now have the blueprint to navigate pretty much any nested data you're ever going to find. The only real question left is, now that you have this power, what amazing things are you going to build?